What if a mistake we've been making as believers in Christ isn't that we expect too much from the revelation, but that we expect it in the wrong way? Not too big, but too literal. And what if that habit has been training us to miss the very thing it's describing while it's happening? I've been spending a lot of time lately exploring those last chapters of Revelation, not trying to escape into them, but trying to see if they actually account for this world we're standing in. Because there's a certainty that most Christian believers feel, even if they don't really examine another side of it. On the one side, that one they are certain about, so they've got the futurist expectation, where everything is climactic, everything is sudden, a system that arrives, a beastly mark, a whore riding a scarlet-coloured beast, a future world of tribulation where everything obviously flips. But they don't consider that other angle to this, one that's easy to miss, because it's not futuristic at all, it's historical. For a long time, especially throughout the Reformation, both Catholics and Protestants were reading Revelation through the lens of real unfolding power struggles, not as distant speculation, but as something they were living inside of. And many of those historicist readings, or at least non-futurist labelled ones, after all, what is a label, if not something you put on an idea, after you already put it in a box? But many non-futurist understandings, like the ones expressed in many old Bible commentaries, are now explored by modern scholars such as Michael Heiser or N.T. Wright, remind us that Revelation is saturated with earlier biblical imagery and wasn't written to be decoded through modern headlines, even if many still expect a future culmination. Or authors like David Nichow Wilcoxon don't try to pin the beast or Antichrist on a single future individual, but rather trace patterns, and they point out how religious authority structures throughout history were oftentimes merging with political power, as many of those trumpet, seal and bowl judgments were already being played out, those systems claiming spiritual legitimacy while exerting control over conscience and action. And it may be a kind of mercy to us that we didn't have to live under the full horrific tribulation and heaviness of all of that. But unfortunately, it also exposes something obvious. Why this apparent ease in modern life, especially in the westernized world, seems to leave so much of modern Christian testimony feeling relatively weightless. And whether you agree with all of the historicists' conclusions or not, it's hard to deny that a lot of what gets labelled as future prophecy has already played out in different forms across the centuries of history and geopolitics. Which raises another question. If those patterns have already been unfolding, then maybe the later parts of Revelation, like the 6th and 7th bowl judgments, aren't necessarily introducing something entirely new, but bringing something long in motion to its exposure and towards its end. Because many history-leaning interpretations would indeed place us in those last two, revelation or bowl or vial judgments, and I've elaborated on that take as well in other videos. So to reiterate, that historicist view is often dismissed by the modern believer, and that dismissed view doesn't deny revelation. It just refuses to isolate it to one short window of time. Instead, it says, what if John wasn't watching a future event unfold, like a movie trailer for the end of the world, but he was being shown the pattern of how human systems rise, corrupt, and collapse through history. Some things may be over and over again, not once, but continuously, which makes it a lot less surprising that the book of Revelation opens with the universal line, "Blessed is the one who reads, and those who hear." Because this isn't just a code for a distant event. It's a pattern that has always been meant to bless those throughout history who faithfully recognized it as it unfolded. Now, when you start looking at things through that lens, even something like a global reset, financial, political, structural, it stops looking like the beginning of prophecy and starts looking like the continuation of it. Because let's be honest, it's not naive at all to think powerful systems are always being structured and wielded behind the scenes. But it is naive for us to assume that the only kingdom being built is theirs. Jesus didn't teach us to pray, "Oh, someday remove us from all of this." He said to pray, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven." To me, that almost sounds like his prediction of the coming new heaven and earth. So the question shifts, not will a system come, but what kind of system have we already been participating in? Because this is where the historicist reading stops being abstract and starts getting uncomfortable. The mark of the beast, forehead and hand, that language didn't start in Revelation. It was already there, in the law, in the book of Deuteronomy, in the book of Exodus. Bind these words as a sign upon your hand, as frontlets between your eyes. Belief and action. What you hold to be true and what you live out. That's the mark. Not first a chip, not first a device, but allegiance expressed through our thought and embodied through our obedience. And even in the book of Ezekiel, the mark isn't something imposed. It's something that reveals who already belongs. Those who refuse alignment with what's broken. Those who see it and grieve it. Which means when Revelation warns about the mark of the beast, it's not introducing a new idea, it's showing the other side of the same pattern. Not just something placed on you, but something you align with. Now, I'm not totally dismissing futurism because people sense something coming, and they're not wrong. There always have been systems that attempt to consolidate control. So of course, there will be technologies that try to amplify and abuse that control. But here's where the tension comes in. If you've been trained to expect the mark as something obvious, external, undeniable, you may completely overlook how deeply integrated it already is. Now, don't miss this. That doesn't soften the warning. If anything, it sharpens it. Because the warning in Book of Revelation was never casual. It wasn't about accidentally stepping into something you didn't understand. It was about alignment. Forehead, what you give your mind to. Hand, what you give your life to. So if the mark is tied to allegiance, not just a visible act, then the danger isn't that someone tricks you into taking it. It's that you participate in it without ever recognizing it for what it is, because historicism doesn't say nothing is coming. It says what's coming isn't disconnected from what already has been. And underneath all of it, not just the systems, but the thing they all orbit around, is our fear of death itself. We've gotten used to calling death natural, a part of life, a part of the cycle. But the biblical text doesn't ever say that. It calls death an enemy, and not one we make peace with, one that gets abolished. There's that moment in Revelation, death and Hades themselves, thrown into the fire, not managed, not explained, removed. So, here's the most glorious question. If death is actually being undone, not just at the end of time, but as part of what God is bringing about, then why are we so certain we'd recognize it? Is it because we've already decided what it has to look like? Instant, global, unmistakable. But that's the same mistake that's been made before, expecting fulfillment to arrive one certain way, and missing it when it doesn't. Now, this is where we could slow down. I'm not saying human systems suddenly become divine. And I'm not saying technology is the kingdom, but I am saying this. If death is the enemy being dismantled, and reality itself is being brought into alignment with life, then it wouldn't necessarily look like escape or a rapture. It might look like something far more unsettling. It might look like the world we already know, beginning to change in ways we don't yet have a category for. For instance, how exactly the kingdom comes out of us, from within. Jesus did say the kingdom is within us. I have a few videos that have touched a bit on this most profound of ideas. And if that's true, then the real question isn't just when does it happen? It's whether we've been trained to dismiss it while it's happening. I've pondered before about how it is that I think one of the biggest mistakes we make is assuming John saw sequence when what he may have been shown was compression. A whole reality collapsed into, simpler to understand, imagery. Because when he says he saw, that word doesn't just mean visual sight. It means to perceive, to understand, to become aware, and suddenly, new heaven and new earth stops sounding like a location change and starts sounding like a transformation of our awareness of how reality itself is experienced. That old saying of missing the forest through the trees could pertain to us right here, right now. We've spent a lot of time studying the bark, arguing over textures, debating differing ways that one particular leaf can come about. details, predictions, but missing the forest entirely. Because if the language is symbolic, and I believe that it is, then forcing it into rigid, literal expectations doesn't clarify it. It distorts it. Stars falling, heavens shaking. That language of symbols already existed as descriptions of collapsing powers, not astrophysics gone wrong. And we've seen this before. The people most fluent in the text missed the reality standing in front of them, not because they didn't believe it, but because they had already decided what it had to look like. So I'm not asking you to abandon what you've been taught to expect. I'm asking something harder, to hold it a little more loosely. Because if revelation is not just a future exploding, but an ongoing unveiling, then the question isn't, when does it start? It's, are we recognizing it as it unfolds? Because it may not arrive the way we imagined. It may not interrupt history or his story, but reveal it as continuation. And if that's true, then it could be that the line between what is going to happen according to the Bible and what's happening right here and right now is a much, much thinner line than we've been led to believe.